Well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's Code Ninjas conference call. My name is Marty Flanagan. I am the Vice President of Franchising here with Code Ninjas, and I host these calls each and every week to be able to give you better insight, understanding, get you caught up. Do Code Ninja by the numbers. You have a good idea where we're going, what we've done, and really what the buzz is about. And this is also an opportunity for you to be able to ask any questions you have. For the last 2.5, close to 3 years, I've been hosting these calls on Fridays. And as of now, I've only missed it. We've only not done this about 5 times. And these calls typically last could go anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, really based on your questions. The first 15, 20 minutes, if you've listened to these calls in the past, are always the same, which I just kind of go over that little bit of a history and catch up a little bit. And then we go into that Q&A segment where you're able to ask any questions, and you're more than welcome to ask any questions about Code Ninjas that you may have, whether it's going to be something you've heard on the past calls that you want clarity on, whether it's on something that I said today or mentioned today that you want to dive deeper into. This will be your time to ask those questions. Pretty easy how it works. I just unmute you. You kind of virtually raise your hand. I unmute you, and then you'll be able to fire away with your question, and then I'll do my very best to provide clarity and understanding for you for that question. So again, if you're just joining us, my name is Marty Flanagan. I'm the Vice President of Franchising with Code Ninjas. So David Graham, Bert Sensipan, and myself started Code Ninjas in October of 2016. That's when we really started building the infrastructure of Code Ninjas, really developing the franchise as itself. We built Code Ninjas from day one to be a franchise. So everything we started doing from day one was really just developing this as a franchise. We were all in from day one to build Code Ninjas as a franchise. So as we started developing that infrastructure, that support structure, we started developing the internal side of how we were going to operate, how we were going to support, how we were going to be able to help our franchisees scale up and duplicate. It took us a little bit of time. So we didn't really launch as a brand until March of 2017. That's when we really officially we had our very first franchise location franchisee come aboard. We had our first franchise location open in March of 2017. So March of 2017 was really the starting block in terms of really moving forward as Code Ninjas in terms of our brand and our growth across the U.S. and Canada. Fast forward, 2019, so from March of 2017 to March of 2019, we accomplished, which was pretty exciting for our franchisees and for us to accomplish, something that only 2% of franchise systems have accomplished, which is having 100 locations open and operating within that first 24-month period. That was pretty incredible, pretty exciting, just really an outstanding time, really validating for us as our franchisees and for us as a brand to be able to reach that milestone. And that was pretty exciting. So having 100 locations open in our first 24 months of really launching as a brand. So now we have about 480 sold territories in the U.S. and Canada. In the UK, we also have a few franchisees in the UK. We just launched there about 90 days ago. We already have a couple of franchisees 4 months ago. And so here in the U.S. and Canada, about 480 locations, a little bit more than 240 franchisees. We'll have 200 locations open by August. Mid to end of August, we'll have our 200th location open. We'll have our 500th location sold by the end of July. Looks like by the end of July, we're on pace. That's pretty exciting to be able to hit that 500 marker by the end of July, early August. And so all that in 24 months, now we're coming up on, 28 months. That's pretty exciting. And really, what happened with that? Like, why is that? So if you've listened to these calls before, you know I kind of go into our history a little bit. And then obviously open it up from there. David Graham owned a school that taught adults how to code for many years. Okay, that school operated for about 4.5 years in 18 different cities, focusing on bringing adults in for the vocational process, right? Those boot camps, 12, 16 weeks, taking from maybe a different career path, bringing them to the programming and development career path. Obviously, when you're operating 18 different cities, 4.5 years, you build a pretty good network. You have a lot of impact out there in the technology world with coders and programmers. You really get a good gauge on understanding what makes a great coder and a great programmer. And so through all that time, David Graham is an entrepreneur, coder, programmer for 25 plus years. This is what his life has been dedicated to. He saw the opportunity, not based off just what he was doing, but based off the students that continued to come to him and ask him questions about how do we get the younger generation involved? How do I get my kids involved? How do my neighbor kids want to do this? What can I do for them? So he continued to do work in terms of understanding what was out there in terms of curriculum and opportunities for the younger generation. What was there? What could he do? What was happening out there? And that's when his eyes really were open to the lack of opportunity and really the subpar way it was being taught on the market. And the lack of opportunity, not just for the younger generation, but for entrepreneurs, and be able to bring this out into communities all over the country where they typically would not have the opportunity to engage in some sort of education with the STEM programming, right, with learning and understanding this coding side. So as time went on, he continued to work through understanding what that marketplace looked like, where was it being successful, where wasn't it, where were the holes, where were the problems. And the problems were there, and a light bulb went off when he was sitting in his kid's karate class. He saw the belting system. He's like, you can teach kids how to code like that. And then from there, obviously, it really, really launched into something much bigger than we thought it was going to be in the beginning. And some of those problems on the market are going to be the way the kids have the opportunity to learn. Either it's going to be scratching the surface, whether it be in a school system or whether it be online by themselves or whatever it might be. It's just scratching the surface. The real practicing of the skills wasn't there. Or you would be in a camp, and that camp would run through the summer. And camps are great, and we do camps. Camps are a fantastic opportunity to introduce kids into this world, and they really are a good value. Problem is, they're only during summers or only when there's not school, so therefore the practice still wasn't being done, the practicing of those skills. You don't just learn Spanish over a week boot camp over the summer. It's not how it works. You have to practice those skills. So curriculum development started happening and understanding how we could put this into a monthly program to where kids can learn this every month, have access to it, be able to come into our centers and have that experiential learning that process. So they're really getting an experience. And how can you do that? The problem on the market today is that we have to hire coders and programmers, and they have to come up with curriculums, or they have to take a curriculum off the shelf and they have to put it into a segment to where they can teach, and it requires a lot of work. We did that work. We put all that in place. And to kind of understand how we do that and what we've done, I'll kind of give you a little bit of insight on that the main curriculum. I said the curriculum that really gave us the most attention in terms of coders and programmers in the market today and teachers. So to give you an idea, when it comes to our number one group of franchisees, they're coders and programmers, IT professionals. That's our number one group of owners out there for Code Ninjas. Number two is teachers. And what did they see? What was it to them that was like a light bulb that went off, or that works? And really what we've understood and what we've seen is this part of the curriculum, which is also your number one revenue source, is called that drop-in program. Also kind of staying with that Code Ninja theme, drop-in program. It's all been done by the belt system. So we have 9 different belts. And inside those belts, so out of 9 different belts, inside each belt is a learned set of skills and concepts. And at the end of each belt, students have to build a game that shows their proficiency in those skills and those concepts. Every belt builds off one another. Compound learning, cumulative learning. Everything is building off the prior belt. You go to belt number 2, you learn the skills and concepts. At the end of that belt, you build a game that requires you to show the proficiency in those skills and concepts of that belt and the prior belt. Everything builds off of one another, consistent practicing of those skills and concepts all the way through the curriculum. How they show their proficiency is on something called our game development platform. Our game development platform is also known as an LMS, Learning Management System. It does not exist today in the world of coding for kids, so we had to build one. We built our own. We have the only game development platform on the market that tests the proficiency of the skills and concepts that students are learning as they work their way through the curriculum. So that system, we own it. It's part of our program. Also, inside this 9-belt program, 90% of the curriculum is proprietary and exclusive to Code Ninjas. We have a exclusive robotics program built into that. We have our proprietary textbooks also a part of that. And this program also is one that is accessed by our students for 1 to 2 hours per week. It's all about convenience. There's no classrooms. There's no lectures. They're really coming in at their parents' convenience and accessing that curriculum for 1 hour to 2 hours per week. This curriculum, for an example, also uses 3 different technologies really inside this, 3 different languages, but also within inside here. For an example, that belt number 2. This is all game-based, and remember that if you haven't heard that before, this is a game-based curriculum. Everything we do is about kids having fun and parents seeing results. Engaging the parents so they can actually see what their son or their daughter is learning, play the games their son or their daughter is building, and the kids are having fun. It's engaged. It's experiential learning. So there's all little wins built into every single belt, so they don't feel, they actually have a feeling of sense of accomplishment, which is actually equal to motivation, especially for kids. So inside this curriculum, like I said, there's opportunities. They're actually writing code. They're not just dragging and dropping the concept. They're actually writing code. In that belt number 2, they're writing up to 1,100 lines of code to build those games for themselves. And they're learning to think laterally. So it's fantastic for them to be able to really think outside the box and really develop those skills of a great coder and a great programmer. So that part of the curriculum itself, that takes 3 to 4 years for our students to accomplish. We run about an 8-to-1 ratio of Code Sensei to students. When a student comes into Code Ninjas, they scan their wristband. When they scan their wristband, it unlocks a security measure, then they can now access the curriculum. This curriculum lives on our platform in the cloud, and students can only access it through our dashboard. That dashboard, students can actually see what they've done in the past, go back and play those games, make minor adjustments, and progress into the curriculum. Collaboration is a big part of what our students do every day. They're able to collaborate and work with kids, and they're with themselves, friends, develop relationships as well. And they can actually show their friends what they have done, whether it's on a parents' night out, whether they have a guest come with them, or whether it's just that they make a friend inside and they can collaborate back and forth and show each other what they've done. So as you think of that, that is one opportunity. And there's so many different aspects to that curriculum. This curriculum is complete but never finished. It'll never be finished. It's always being transformed. It's always being worked on. That curriculum itself has so many opportunities to continue to grow. We can't just say it's done, it's finished. It's never going to be finished. It's complete. There's a pathway all the way through, but it's not just a done program where we're not going to continue to sharpen and add to it. We have 15 coders and programmers, curriculum coders and programmers on staff that focus on the Code Ninjas curriculum development and technology, so it's continuing to move forward. This is one program, one opportunity for families to get involved. The parents pay a flat tuition rate per month, and again, they're going to come in at their convenience. They don't have to sign up for a time. We also do camps, so that's another opportunity. We also do workshops. We have parents' night out, and we do an after-school program. So you have, and then birthday parties. So you have 6 different opportunities currently for families to get involved in Code Ninjas. Camps and workshops. What is the difference? Camps are 5 days long, either a half day or a full day for 5 days. Workshops are typically 1 to 3 days. We currently offer 14 different camps for Code Ninjas. 14 different camps that our franchisees can choose from, which they want to do based on popularity, based on their market in general. They can introduce multiple different camps and opportunities and workshops inside their community. So those camps and workshops, not only are they offered inside of Code Ninjas, but they can be taken out into the school system. So now you can take your Code Ninjas camps and workshops and go to every school out there in the market and be able to do any kind of camps and workshops inside of the school system. That gives you another opportunity to be out into the community and engage, and then obviously drive them back into your center for the drop-in program as well, or a parents' night out, or a birthday party. So that gives you an idea of what different aspects of our opportunity brings for families to be involved in Code Ninjas. No matter their experience, this digs in deep. Going through JavaScript for a year, year and a half, going into Lua for a year, going into C# for a year, and they're learning the syntax. This isn't drag and drop. This isn't a hacked up version. They're actually learning the syntax. They're actually learning the technology. And we believe at Code Ninjas that great coders and great programmers have a few very similar characteristics. They're great problem solvers. They're great critical thinkers. Their cognitive ability to just think outside the box obviously is very strong. Collaboration, leadership, time management. We work with our students on developing those core competencies, those core skills to allow them to be the best coder programmer, because that's great coders and great programmers can pick up a language over a period of a week. But those underlying skills have to be practiced, have to be developed, and that's really what we focus on along inside of the curriculum, learning the syntax, the languages, and understanding what coding is as well. So that gives you a better idea of that curriculum side of it in terms of Code Ninjas. Why did we be a franchise? Why did we do something else? Because entrepreneurs, because teachers, people with passion can deliver an experience in their marketplace better than anybody. You understand your community. You understand your area in general, your network. You have this passion. You have this excitement. You're going to be able to deliver that exceptional experience in your marketplace. The way this is designed in such a way where you're hiring your code senseis. Your code senseis, 16 to 22 years old, the pathway of the curriculum is there. What their requirement is, what we say your number one responsibility is for your code senseis is for them to deliver an exceptional experience, number one, and number two, to teach and coach the Code Ninjas curriculum. So the pathway is there. You can have the best curriculum in the world, which we feel we do, obviously, but if you have a subpar experience, then you are going to lose your students, and vice versa. You can have the best experience in the world, and if you have a subpar curriculum, you're going to keep your students. So experience, that delivering that exceptional experience is critical. That's one reason why right now, I just saw it last week, we had an 8% month-over-month attrition, right, which is incredibly high. And that was about 6 months ago when that was released. So 6 months fast forward, we obviously have a lot more locations open, and guess what? Now we're at 9%. We're staying pretty solid with our experience to keep that kind of low number. That's pretty incredible. 9% month-over-month attrition. That's incredible. We're keeping a very high number of our kids on a regular basis, which is exciting to see that number continue to stay low with our kind of growth that we've been experiencing. So this will be the opportunity now where you can ask any question that you would like. If you've listened to these calls in the past, obviously I encourage any question. Every question is important. So please feel free to ask whatever that question is on your mind, and I'll be more than happy, whether it's the goals of Code Ninjas. Like I said, I started Code Ninja with David Graham and Bert Sensipon in 2016. I can pretty much answer any question that you're going to have. And if you've listened to these calls in the past, you know that I actually really enjoy your questions. I value your questions, so please feel free to do that. And how that's going to work is pretty simple. We have almost 45, 50 people on the line today, so we have a lot of people, which is fantastic. So just be patient. If you do hit *6 to raise your hand and to ask a question, and I don't get to you right away, please know that I'll do everything I can do to get to you. So if you have a question, this is going to be your time to hit *6. I'll do my best to get to everybody. Hi, you have a question? Hello, do you have a question? Okay. Hello, do you have a question?
Yeah. Yes. You can hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. So my question is, the teacher, how where are those teachers going to teach those classes if you are not close to a big area like a major city? You're going to have a hard time to find. I have a feeling that I'm going to have a hard time to find the teachers who will be teaching those classes, and how difficult it is to find teachers.
So, and I'm just going to clarify as we go through. So, your question is, how are we going to find teachers and to teach classes? Okay, so I hear that. I just want to correct a couple things with that statement. One, we don't hire teachers. If you want to hire teachers, go for it, but that's not a requirement. We hire 16 to 22-year-olds that got a computer science background or a robotics background. And remember, we have it here for them already. They're not having to make anything up. They don't have to be coders. They don't have to be programmers. With almost 200 locations open, I have yet to hear any kind of issue or concern about finding a code sensei. So we have not heard a problem with finding code senseis. No matter, we have locations that are in Fargo, North Dakota. I mean, Rapid City, South Dakota. We're talking in small towns. We have code ninjas, and I have yet to hear of an issue, concern of finding great code senseis. The pathway is there for them. You don't have to hire coders and programmers. You don't have to hire teachers. The pathway is there. You're looking to hire people that can bring an exceptional experience. Looking for people that have a tech background, that's obviously, robotics background, or even having a computer science background. Typically, when somebody comes to a Code Ninjas, they're coming to us not because they're just looking for kind of quote unquote a job. They're not deciding between Code Ninjas and a yogurt shop. They're coming to us because they're passionate about this. This is the proof that we have, that they're coming to us because these kids have this passion and this is what they want to do with their future. This also feeds their future. They can put this on their resume when they get older, that they taught kids how to code for X number of years. And for a long time, I said 17 to 22 years old, and I had a franchisee listen in the other day and said, you know what, we're getting tons of great 16-year-olds coming in and being code sensei. So I wanted to make sure everybody if you've listened to these calls in the past, 16 to 22 is the range I'm hearing on a regular basis for code senseis.
So you mentioned somebody have a robotics background,
or computer science from school.
But how are you going to find those again? The robotic and computer science background in a remote area. Who are those?
Well, our franchise. So a couple of things. One, I'm not going to reveal all of our secrets and how we're finding people, but obviously we work with you, we help you. That's why we're a franchise. We support you, and obviously our franchisees are proving this not to be an issue in small towns all over the U.S. and Canada. So when it comes to giving you the specifics on how to, our franchisees are proving it, and we have built-in collaboration tools. When you don't have to just hear it from me, you obviously can work with your fellow franchisees as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your question. Hi, do you have a question?
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, I have more than one question. So the first one would be, what is the total investment required?
For the U.S. and Canada, you're looking at anywhere from, inside of our franchise disclosure document, it's anywhere from $110,000 to $250,000 for 1,800 square feet. That's total turnkey. That's everything total turnkey, franchise fee, outside signage, any kind of inventory or build out, everything into that one number, total turnkey.
And then of that number, how much do you set aside for the initial operation cost of the franchise?
We suggest to all of our franchisees that they have at least 3 months of operating expense in the bank. Whether they use it or not, it all depends on their pre-sale performance, because we give you a 12-week pre-opening marketing template and roadmap to follow to where you do pre-enrollment. So you'll be enrolling students before and collecting monies before you even open your door for business.
Okay. Now I suppose that when you basically sell territories, so what is the radius? Protection radius that you get when you buy a territory?
So we award territories based on demographics. So it's based on the population of students in our age range, and it's based on income. We don't stack Code Ninjas on top of one another. So for an example, if I award you a 2.5-mile territory, another Code Ninjas is not going to be 2.6 miles away from you. We don't do that. So you'd have to have a Code Ninjas at least 5 miles away as the crow flies. It's not going to be one where we stack Code Ninjas on top of one another in every market. We like to give our franchisees space.
Okay, and in regards to competition,
so it's outside of traditional franchising. We do it outside of the traditional way of franchising, but we found it to be very successful so far for our franchisees.
Okay. Now, in regards to competition, who would you consider your biggest competition in that market?
Well, I mean, I guess it's how you view competition. Are you talking about franchising locations? Are you talking about just a lack of education? What do you when you say competition? What are you referring to?
No, I'm talking about some other similar franchises, not just specifically in regards teaching programming, but for example, I would see places where they provide childcare services as a competition, not directly, but in some regards.
Yeah, so they're going to be taking care of kids that are probably not in our age range, for one. They're daycare. Okay. We're not a daycare, right? So we're a little bit different. When it comes to your question, I think overall, when you look at competition in general, you can look at other systems out there like Kumon. I think they have over 5,000 locations. You look at a strong single-source curriculum like Mathnasium. Mathnasium has, close to 1,000 locations. So, and they teach math. Right? So they obviously do a great job. They've done a great job for the tutoring industry and paved ways for places like Code Ninjas. When you talk about competition, there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be people out there that are going to try to open up across the street from you when they see your success. So when you think of competition, it's always going to be somebody trying to do something to take away from your business. But that's why being a part of a franchise, there is no other franchise like Code Ninjas, right? We have other franchises like iCode. There's other franchises like the Coder School, which are great guys. There's other places out there. They've been around for longer than us. I mean, the Coder School has been around for 7 years, 8 years. They have 23 locations. Hansel, those guys are great. You have iCode. I think they've been around for 5 years, and they have 3 locations. I mean, they've been around longer. We have not been. We've been solidly for 2.5 years with close to 200 locations open. We're going strong, but competition's always going to be there. It's our job as a franchise to work with our franchisees to continue to be at the tip of the spear of this industry to provide the very best experience to our customers and the very best learning opportunity for our customers. And that's what we do collectively, collaborating with our franchisees and obviously the franchise in general.
I see. Now, in regards of the investment, you were talking about to have at least between $110,000 and $250,000. Are you talking about liquid? I mean, actual money. I mean, liquid assets, or you're talking about?
That's opening. That's your opening.
Okay, that's
open up a Code Ninjas. I don't care if you have it where you get it from, right? That's just to open up a Code Ninjas.
Okay, I see. And in regards to, so let's say once you're ready to go, what is the usual time? How long does it take to open a location?
From the day you sign your franchise agreement to the day you open your doors, on average, inside of Code Ninjas, is about 7 months. Some franchisees do it in 3 months. Real estate is your biggest factor, is getting the real estate in order. Sometimes prospective franchisees come to us with their real estate already ready to go. Obviously, they're opening up much faster.
Okay, I see. And I suppose that you provide some kind of a training for the franchise owner?
Yes. Not only do we have new franchisee training, we also have ongoing support. Next Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, we have our NinjaCon conference where all of our franchisees from all over the U.S. and Canada are going to be in Florida for our national conference. So we have obviously ongoing support through Code Ninja University, personalized support, our podcasts, our videos, obviously new franchisee training, and then and obviously our yearly conferences. And we have built-in collaboration tools. So you're not just learning from the corporate office, you're learning from franchisees on a date that live in your shoes every day. And a lot of people will ask about the code, when I said earlier, there is no franchise like Code Ninjas, because there's not. The reason I say that is we have 240 franchisees that are doing this right now. By the time you became a franchisee and crack your doors open for business, there's 250 franchise locations open that you're going to be able to talk to and learn from and grow with, and that are driving our business forward. It's not just about what the franchise headquarters is doing. It's about what our franchisees are doing to drive our business forward and hold the franchisor accountable to continuing to push forward and provide better opportunities for them as franchisees and for our students, obviously.
Okay, my last question is in regards to retail locations. What is the minimum size that you look for, and also, I suppose that as a franchise owner, initially you help the franchise owner to look for the location. I mean, I guess it doesn't just rely on the franchise owner.
Think of it this way. Right? Your pathway is there for you. We've done this. We're with you. Right? Okay. You're not going to be doing this. You're not doing this by yourself. You're not going down this road by yourself where you got to go and wander off and find a territory, wander off and find a location. We have it there for you. We have vendors. We have systems. We have processes. We have the roadmap for you. We have step-by-step action plans for you. It's just about engaging in the process. What I mean by that is not by becoming a franchisee, but when you engage in the process means that you're working with somebody on my team. When you work with somebody on my team, we actually hold markets for you. We put it on hold to relieve the anxiety of somebody buying that market before you have a chance to do your due diligence. That's very unique in franchising, that we as a franchisor require you to do nothing besides be in our process with us, create a timeline with us, and we'll put that market on hold so that the anxiety of thinking, it's going to be sold before I get to it, right? Mm-hmm. That's gone. Because now we're working together. And we're not asking you to pay for a franchise fee. We're not asking you to sign anything besides an NDA. We're asking you to come to our Discovery Day. We're asking you to engage with us, be professional, and we're going to work with you, and we're going to help you through your due diligence stages to help you move forward.
Okay, yes, one more. So in regards royalties, fees, so how much is the actual franchise fee, and how much do you charge in royalties?
Okay. Yes. So our website has it all laid out, but it's a $29,000 franchise fee for the U.S., and our royalties are 8%.
8%. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks for your question. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Yes. First of all, I want to say congratulations to your team. This is an incredible growth story that I'm hearing. My question, and I know you guys are pretty open about, because of the amount of growth you guys see, you might see some failure. My question is around what is your strategy to support the franchisees who are struggling to make their minimum or losing their money? And also wanted to kind of put in there asking you about, possibly increasing the age limit from 7 to 14. I've seen a lot of adults who go through the career change path, and they might want to get engaged in learning coding. So do they have opportunity to kind of get into this kind of market?
Well, and thanks for both those questions. So the F word, we know it's going to happen, right? You can't stop it. The F word's going to happen. We know it's going to be there. How are we ready for it? What are we doing to be proactive about it? What are we going to learn from it when it does happen? We're there for that, right? So we understand that. To say I'm going to contribute, like I'm going to pay for your bills and we as a franchisor are going to financially contribute to your business, that's going to be different, right? But do you have dedicated individuals for support? Yes. Have we done pre-active marketing in areas to help franchisees in a general area? Have we contributed? Yes. Do we do it for everybody? No. We have to look at each market in itself. We have to be able to work with the franchisee, understand where they're going. Do they get individual calls when they're not doing well? Yes. Can franchisees? I've been in franchising for more than 15 years. I've worked with thousands of franchisees, coach sales training and service for franchisees, for thousands of franchisees all over the U.S., Canada, the U.K., Australia, for many, many years, for one of the number one franchises in the world. Can they call me anytime they want to? Yep, they sure can. I open door. So we don't do this in a way that's going to be where, they're not doing really good. Let's look at their numbers, decide what they did wrong, so when they fail, we can stop it. That's one part of it, but we don't want our franchisees to invest into Code Ninjas and fail, right? Obviously, nobody wants to do that. So we do offer opportunities for franchisees to obviously engage with us as much as possible, but I can't force that. So we have all these things. I've worked with the largest fitness franchise system in the world for 12 years. I get that failure is going to happen and we can be proactive, but I can't force franchisees to make phone calls back. I can't force them to call me back. I can't force them to engage. But internally, do we have a system in place to when somebody is not reaching that? Yes. Can we identify it based on the numbers? Yes. We don't have to wait for you as a franchisee to call and say, hey, I'm not doing well. We can actually look at your numbers and see it. We have a system the entire system that we built allows us to see what's going on. As long as everybody's being transparent about it, we can see what's going on. So that F word is going to happen. The International Franchising Association said if you have less than a 5% closure rate, you're a great franchise opportunity. We have not had a failure yet. We have not had a Code Ninjas outright say, I got to lock my doors, I got to be done. That has not happened. One thing that we have done recently is our very first franchisee that opened their doors for business, husband and wife team. They're obviously thriving with their Code Ninjas. We just hired the husband, his name is Joe. We just hired him as a Code Ninjas team member. So now he's an employee of the franchise. We take it so seriously in the day-to-day operations, one, to understand our franchisees, that our very first franchise center that opened, we now hired him as an employee. He's very successful. He's doing very, very well. And he gets it. He sees it. He was being contacted. He was being called by so many people. It made sense for us to say we need to get him on board. And now we've hired him as an employee. So we really believe in understanding how our franchisees' daily lives go and how to make it better. But it's going to be a process because franchisees have to engage. The second part, when it comes to adults, obviously we lived in that space for a long time. Stay tuned. I don't want to give away too much, but you're going to see some great things coming from Code Ninjas here in the coming weeks. So
that's great. So as far as let's say we did everything right and the location that we picked out is not the right location for Code Ninja, is there a possibility for that location can be moved to like nearby town or different location within the town? Would that be an extra charge?
There's so many things that go with that question that we got to focus. I think that derails. We got to keep the boat in between the buoys here. That question, there's a lot that goes into that. There's so many details there that if I just said yes or no, I wouldn't be doing you a service or anybody listening. I really need to know all the details of what's going on, because you could say doing everything right. That doesn't mean that equals to what I'm saying you're doing is right, or what we see, or what our franchisees see. And also, what are the details? Where are you at? Where's it located? Is your landlord going to let you out of your lease even? There's a lot of things going on there. You're going to have to rebuild it. You can't just move this to a space and have an open warehouse, right? You have to do the Code Ninjas build. I mean, really thinking about all the financial details that go into that, it would not be wise to move. And then you think about ahead of that. If you chose the wrong location, that means we let you choose the wrong location. So all of our locations go through an approval process. It has to be approved to be a Code Ninjas. It can't just be because you said so. So there's a few steps there before you get to that place.
So is your team like in like an area that I am from? They have a different areas that are good, some areas that are bad. Do you rely on franchisee to kind of identify the location, or do you have a team that will kind of do that for you?
We have a team. Everything is a team. You're never by yourself. If you're by yourself, it's because you put yourself there, not because we don't have an opportunity for you to engage with our team. Real estate team, marketing team, support team, compliance team, you name it, we're there for you. So when it comes to that location, you're not on your own there anytime.
So do they come to the location to kind of identify the real estate, or do you do that remotely?
Well, our real estate team they're a real estate company. They have a network all over the U.S. So.
Got you. Okay.
All right. We have an approval process. We'll get you in that approval process, and we'll take it from there, okay? Thanks for your questions. Hi, you have a question?
Yes. I was wondering, do you have any financing assistance for veterans or any discount on the franchise fees for veterans?
So our franchise fee is typically higher, so it's already broken. It's already discounted, so we don't do anything. We don't do discounts on top of discounts. When it comes to financing, that would be up to the financial lenders that we work with. We work with 2 of the top financial brokers for franchising in the entire U.S. So when you work with them, they would be able to assist you and give you the understanding when it comes to veterans.
Okay, and just kind of a follow-up to that, because I didn't find any of the financial brokers online. Once we start the application, you would then send it there, or do we go to like the SBA ourselves to get the to assist with investment?
Well, if you received an email from my team, their information is in that email. So when you engage with my team, when they send you that second follow-up email that has the franchise disclosure document and all that stuff in it, there's also 2 different attachments. One is from they're both those attachments are from our financial brokers with all their details.
Okay.
So if you haven't engaged with my team yet,
email.
Yeah, if you haven't received that, you need to connect with whoever you've been working with and work with them to receive that email, because then they're going to get you that second email that outlines our entire business model and has our Excel pro forma on it, our franchise disclosure document, has more information in there, and along with it, it has our 2 financial brokers that we work with, which are the largest in the franchising system right now. So they do.
Okay.
They're very, very large financial brokers that specialize in franchising, and I believe they're the 2 largest on the market today.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
My question, I'm not sure if you can answer on the call, but basically along the business end, what is a typical, for a franchise, I know it depends on region, but what's your typical ROI or payback period for your typical franchise in order to make sure that it meets the waterline for a financial decision to invest?
Yeah, great question. And we do that one-on-one, and I would do it right now. I would answer that right now if Virginia and New York had everything approved. Every year you have to go through an approval over the last 2 states. So being that this is a public call, I can't discuss the item 19 inside the franchise disclosure document because it can be heard by somebody in a state that doesn't have it approved, so it would be against the law. So what we would do then is when you connect with us one-on-one, we can actually talk you through the item 19, and we have a really nice Excel pro forma that you actually can plug and play the numbers into and see how it makes sense and see the opportunity for your community.
Great, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. I was wondering if you could speak to the process and maybe the benchmarks of success for attracting customers to a newly opened location. And if it's possible, I don't know if it's outside the scope of this call, to go into more detail on the tools or research that is at our disposal to confirm that a potential location is worth opening.
Yeah. Well, so when it comes to the marketing efforts, I mean, we kind of pride ourselves on our marketing, what we've done with our digital marketing strategies, and they've been proven to be successful based on franchisees opening and continuing to sharpen those. But there's no way on a public call that I post on YouTube am I going to even dive into those details. So one thing we do is at our discovery days, we do go into that. Andy Giefer, our director of marketing, we have an individual also as PR, another digital strategist on board as well. And we have 4 total team members on our marketing. Andy Giefer does an entire presentation and Q&A at Discovery Day, and you can meet with him one-on-one to do a one-to-one as well. So if the marketing side of it is really important, he's there to answer all your questions. We don't give a lot of the details away, but if you know marketing strategies and you get it, you'll be able to connect with him one-on-one at Discovery Day, sit through that presentation, and after that, more than likely, you would be like, okay, got it, totally understood. So we do that more detailed information in those times.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah?
It does.
When it comes to finding a location, we look for, there's a couple of things. There's internal and external matrices that we go after. Just to kind of a brief kind of overview, quick bird's eye view of it, we're going to look for income, and we're going to look for students in our age range. We have, and it varies a little bit depending on the number of kids. Like it'll be almost like a balancing act. But we traditionally start with a $70,000 median household income, and then we look for at least 6,000 students in our age range. That's where we like to start. Now, if you said, well, geez, Marty, I have 12,000 students in my age range, but I have 65,000 median household income. Again, we want to look at every opportunity. You may know your market. You may own the building. You may have an incredible lease opportunity, which your overhead would be a little bit lower. There's all these different factors that go into that as well that we would work with. And also we want to look at that market in comparison to other markets that look like it as well across the country, so we can actually see that data and see how those markets are doing as well before it gets to the final approval.
Okay. I did have one more question, if that's all right.
Yeah, please.
This was kind of harped on by an earlier question, but as far as the ROI, what would be like an average or a normal expected time period between opening doors and becoming a profitable location?
That Excel performer that we provide for you while you're in this process with us, before you're a franchisee, we provide that for you. And by using that in the item 19, you would actually be able to see exactly your timeline.
Okay.
It lays it out for an entire year, so you're going to be able to see your entire year. In franchising, the cool thing is I can actually work with you pretty detailed on the cost of doing business. Now, revenue, I have to allow you to do that with the item 19, but with cost of business, we can get pretty tight with that. And that pro forma, that last 12 months, you'll be able to actually see from pre-opening to when you're open to what that looks like for money out of pocket, if you need it at all, depending on what your pre-sale goals are and where you might be.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. So I'm interested in opening a location. Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for your time and the information you provided. It was very helpful. I'm interested in opening a location in Brooklyn, New York, and according to your website, it looks like there aren't any locations currently open in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York is a very dense, well, it's not quite a city, but a very dense area, 2.8 million residents. I don't think Brooklyn is more than 10 miles wide. It's probably less than 100 square miles. So one of the things that I'm concerned about if I open a location here is, are there any plans currently to open any other locations currently in Brooklyn? And also, if not, then does that rule still apply of the max number of locations within a certain number of miles? Does that apply to a place that's as dense as Brooklyn?
Obviously, we got to look at. Yeah, I mean, we obviously have to look at those high dense populations a little bit differently. Right. So we have worked with quite a few people, and you can look at the map and kind of see where we do have some locations, not really by you, but in higher dense areas. So we would look at that together. We would look at that, evaluate that together, and not just make a knee-jerk reaction call on that. We would look at the market itself and determine what is the best type of territory for that such a dense population like that. What does that look like?
Okay. And sounds good. And also regarding the requirements of number of students and median income, I don't expect that would be an issue for the vast majority of neighborhoods in Brooklyn because it's the median incomes are pretty high. So in a scenario like that where a suitable location could in theory be in, any part of Brooklyn, or at least 80% of Brooklyn would satisfy those requirements, who chooses? Would I be able to choose a neighborhood of my choice, or would
for sure. You're going to find. No, we work with you. You know your market better than we do, so we are going to work with you closely in your market. Where do you want to be at? Where is that location going to be? While that market's on hold, we can look for real estate. We can look around because the epicenter of your territory is going to be where your actual location is. So we're going to work with you really closely on that, especially a dense market like that. That's going to require all hands on deck to make sure that it's being looked at properly.
Got it. Okay. another quick question. There are two things that I bring that I think would be really helpful. One, I'm a licensed real estate broker, so finding a place that's suitable is something that I can certainly help with. And also, two, I happen to be a software engineer for over 20 years, so just that's part of the reason why I'm really interested in helping kids to learn coding. That being said, would I, as a licensed real estate broker, be able to represent Code Ninjas as a broker, and that way have my brokerage benefit from collecting a broker fee on whatever location we find, or is that not?
No, you can do your own deal. We don't require you to use we have a required real estate brokerage. You can be your own, no problem.
Okay.
You're licensed, you're ready to go. You do it yourself, not a problem.
Okay. And does the franchise owner have to be present on site? Are there any requirements on how often the franchise owner has to be present on site?
No.
Okay, so in theory, I could open up a location and I can manage it remotely. I don't necessarily have to be in Brooklyn to manage that location.
Correct.
Okay, last question. Is there a requirement of minimum square footage for the location that we choose?
Yes. You start with 1,600 square feet. Look for 22 feet wide with 10-foot ceilings and cast that net and see what you get. Then let's look at it. We have locations that are 1,400, 1,500, 1,600 square feet, but start with 1,600 to 2,000 and make sure it's 22 feet wide with 10-foot ceilings and see what you get. I mean, I know 10-foot ceilings might be an issue there, but we can talk more about that when you see what comes back.
Right. And are we renting the location or purchasing the building?
And that's up to you. You want to purchase a building in Brooklyn, go for it. But otherwise, I'd say renting is good too.
Got it. Okay, so I would be 100% responsible for the actual financing of the space that we find.
Well, you in your situation, yes. Typical franchisee, no. You're a licensed commercial real estate broker. So your situation is, obviously is different than a typical franchisee who would use our resources.
I see. I understand. Okay. So how can I get the process started?
So if anybody out there has not heard from somebody on my team, feel free to email me, Marty@codeninjas.com, Marty@codeninjas.com. If you have not heard from somebody on my team, email me and I'll get you connected.
Got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Hi, Marty. Good day.
Hi.
So my question is, I'm in the Woodbridge Township area, and there is another Code Ninja in the Westfield area, which is probably around 4 miles away from me. Does it cause a problem in opening a location in the Woodbridge Township location?
I'd say we got to look at that together on the map. So I don't want to say yes and I don't want to say no. I would say that make sure that you have connected with my team. Let's look at it together with my team and determine, where is there an opportunity there somewhere.
Okay.
Until I see the numbers and the area on the map, I would really want to look at all that first before saying yes or no. And you just never know. There could be a really good opportunity just outside where you're looking as well. So by looking at it together, we can come up with a plan.
Okay. Another question: is it okay for a prospective franchisee to go visit like the one in Westfield as it's close to me? Is it okay that we can visit and talk with the current franchisor? Can we do that?
Well, after coming to Discovery, once you sign an NDA, come to Discovery Day, we definitely get you connected as part of the process with a franchisee. So to randomly go into one of our centers, I would say that's a bad idea. They're probably not going to let you do much besides stand in the lobby, and they're probably not going to ask a lot of your questions because they don't know who you are. We've instructed all of our franchisees to not engage anyone unless they've been introduced by the corporate office. You don't know who's calling. You don't know who they are. We're a child-run. We have children in and out of our center all day. We have to have high security. And so we've instructed all of our franchisees that they do not accept calls and they do not accept guest visits from anyone unless they've been introduced by the Code Ninjas corporate office.
Okay.
So they may turn you away if you call in or come in. There's a good chance that they will turn you away.
Okay, no problem. Another question: is the franchise is it open 7 days a week? How does it work? Or we make our
That's
own
up to the
time up to the person who owns it. You make your own
That's
schedule.
It's up to the franchisees. Most of our franchisees are open typically from 10, 11 o'clock in the morning to about 7 o'clock at night. That's 5 days a week, and they're usually open on Saturday morning. I know some franchisees that are open Monday through Thursday and Saturday, Sunday. So it's really up to you as a franchisee.
Okay, right. And then I got the other guy answered my question in terms of, I think somebody asked a question about the financing. You provide, once we get off this call, we can send you an email, and you'll provide us with, like, the lenders who are connected, the brokers who are connected in helping us get finance and all of that so we can start the process, correct? That's how it works?
Yep.
Okay,
for sure.
Somebody else answered that. You answered that question to somebody else. And then the minimum square foot, as you said, it's 1,600. So that's start at 1,600 square foot, and we can find our own place and all of that, and not wait for you to choose a place for us.
Yeah, we have preferred real estate vendors that have been working with 80% of our franchisees. They'll work with you as well if you're interested. So, but okay.
Another question. Sorry, I'm going to get off after this one. Can you have like two partnerships come in onto one deal, or is it?
Sure, you can. Yep.
Can you do that?
Yep.
Okay.
You sure can.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thanks for your questions.
Thank you, Marty. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
A few questions here.
Yes.
I'm wondering about employees. They don't need coding experience, just a background in engineering or robotics or something. You know, if a child has some difficulties with some of the curriculum that you're offering, I'm just wondering, how could they facilitate something if they're not familiar with coding and, you know,
they'll be familiar with the Code Ninjas curriculum because they'll have done it themselves. And when it comes to, remember, we're going after kids that have a computer science background and a robotics background. You're not going to hire somebody that doesn't have any experience at all. We're going to be looking for kids that have, you know, even going to a computer science teacher at the local high school. You have a lot of community colleges and other colleges that are nearby. Like I said, we haven't had a problem ever, from what I've heard from any of our franchisees, finding code senseis.
Right.
And also, remember, they're doing the Code Ninjas curriculum. So if you have kids up to the second belt, when you hire a code sensei, they're going to be doing up to the second belt at least, or maybe even the third, because they're going to be coaching and teaching kids on information that they've already done. And you got to keep in mind, a 17, 18, 19-year-old, their cognitive ability is much greater than an 8-year-old. So what an 8-year-old is trying to learn on a keyboard and what they're trying to do, a 17, 18-year-old is not going to be a problem. So it's also the skill set that's there. Now, when they get deeper into the belts, the less and less help they're going to need. It's not like when they're in belt number 8, they're going to need any kind of assistance like they did and then we're in belt number 4. They're much further along at that point, to where the problem-solving skills are really about what they've already learned. Now they're just applying it, not being taught it. So the applying it and figuring it out is much different than having to teach it to apply it and figure it out. So when our franchisees are looking for their code senseis, typically they're a few people deep on who they're bringing aboard. It usually is not. I have not. Like I said, I haven't heard of being a problem, and if anything, there's a little bit of a waiting list.
Great. And I'm wondering about people are sort of asking about profitability, and I understand the complexity, item 19, and the restrictions, but how many students typically does Code Ninja's location need to ramp up to the point where it's cash flowing and you're, theoretically paying your business expenses?
Well, so franchising law is, I can't give you a mathematical equation that allows you to figure out any kind of revenue that is not listed or documented inside of our item 19. So what we've done is we obviously have an item 19, but then that Excel pro forma that I built, that has student counts in it, camps, workshops, parents' night out, birthday parties, drop-in program. It's all built into there month by month by month, including your pre-sale, and allows you to plug and play the numbers. So by using that item 19, and again, the longer and longer Code Ninja goes on, the more and more data that we can have that helps you get more and more granular. If you ask our first 200 let's say 150 franchisees, they had zero data. So the majority of our franchisees had zero data to go off of to make their decision. Right, the last 100 really had, they've had a more data than anybody else has ever had, and I'd say the last 50 even had even more. So as time goes on, we're able to get more and more data in item 19. But you can use that along with our Excel pro forma, and that's what all of our franchisees have done to make their decision from last week to 2 years ago. And we will obviously we want to help you with that as much as we can. But when it comes to revenue, we have our franchising attorneys are not rookies. They've been at this for 20 years. Are very crystal clear on what we can and cannot say and how we say it for that revenue side.
Okay. So how about initial startup cost? You have $110,000 to $250,000. That's a pretty huge variation. What are some of the differences? I mean, obviously you have your lease, your monthlies could probably range anywhere from $800 in North Dakota to $3,000 in a major metropolis or more for a location at 1,600 to 2,000 square feet, maybe as much as $4,000. So what is but I would imagine build out is part of that. But how can you do it more economically versus stay away from the $250,000 mark? Keep your investment costs.
It's 100. So everything you just said actually doesn't apply. What the number one thing that applies is your landlord contribution. Landlords contribute to your build-out, called TIA, Tenant Improvement Allowance. That 110 to 250 is 100%, not 100%, 95% determined on what your landlord is going to contribute to your build-out. If your landlord doesn't contribute any money to your build-out, you're going to be on the higher side. We've had franchisees where landlords have done everything. We've had franchisees that get $40 a square foot, $30 a square foot, 20, 10. We have franchisees that don't get any, right? And so when you look at that number, that's for 1,800 square feet, 80% of our franchisees have fallen into that number. 10% are over, 10% are under. But 80% fall into, that's the rule of thumb in franchising inside an FDD, is 80% have to fall in, you use that 80% rule. And so it's determined, it's basically going to go off of what is your landlord going to contribute to your build.
Do your the lease, the real estate, what do you call it, the company that you work with or outsource this with, do they help with lease negotiations and the build out?
Oh, of course. Yes. They don't do build out, but they're going to help you with your lease negotiations because that's why they've rolled over 1,500 leases last year in the franchising world. I mean, they're very, very successful. And when it comes to what they do, they're going to help you negotiate those lease terms. When it comes to construction, I mean, obviously, we have a complete, design manual done and ready, and you'll be able to get multiple bids to be sure that, you're being treated fairly.
I have one more question. I appreciate you taking the time to answer them. So you have quite a few franchisees. How many franchisees own more than one location, physical locations versus territories? And then what your number one franchisee, as far as area development goes, personally owns and operates how many locations?
Half of our franchisees right now, if you break it all down, I think it's 2.1 locations per franchisee. Our number one franchisee is currently opening. He has 2 open, and he's opening up 5 at once. So he'll have 7, and I believe he's got 4 right now that have done leases, and he's got 1 more that's pretty close. So he'll be doing 4 or 5 at one time, along with the 2 he already has open.
Where is he located?
Well, we can talk about that one-on-one.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate you answering.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Yeah, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the initial investment, what you're talking about, from $110,000 to $250,000, and with the lease you're talking about minimum 1,600 to 1,800 square foot, and depending upon the location, let's say the leases average about $36,000 a year or about $3,000 a month, and looking at the charges, what you charge the student, will you be able to give me a ballpark idea that how many student hours are required for a break-even for this type of numbers, what you're talking about, the capital cost and the recurring expenditure?
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you asking the question. So I'm going to go over this. I have answered this question 2 times on this call today. So just so you're aware, I did address this question twice already. So what I'm going to tell you is you need to connect with my team one-on-one. There's franchising laws that come into play here to where I'm not going to be able to answer that question directly. I have answered it. I answered it in more detail a couple of times earlier on this call today. I would suggest connecting with one of my team members one-on-one to allow them to actually walk you through what they can and cannot talk about according to franchising law. Okay?
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Hi, yes. Thank you, Marty. Can you share anything more with us about the region demographics that you're looking for? I mean, you mentioned minimum of, average household income of 70,000 and 6,000 students. Is how are you really finding that most of your students are coming from $200,000 plus families? Are you finding that the fact that software is a great middle class kind of entree job, making it more attractive to people under 100,000? I mean, where are you finding your sweet spot? What more can you tell us about?
Great question. And here's the hardest part about it all. It's that TQ, right? That IQ, EQ, TQ, right? The tech awareness education, or the tech knowledge in general. High tech awareness communities, income, you can't. I could tell you one thing, they're going to show you another, because we have centers out there that are under 70,000 median household income and with 6,000 kids, and they're crushing it. How come another community up the road is 120,000 median household income with 8,000 kids, and they're performing at the exact same level as one with half that, right? So tech, if you want to say tech IQ or tech knowledge and tech awareness is a really big part of that. And that's almost impossible to put your finger on. You can talk about how communities are known as, I think I've heard the word, other than Silicon Valley, I think I've heard like Silicon Slopes and Silicon Bay this, and I've heard so many different terms that people have coined for their community. It's actually quite funny, but quite true at the same time. Tech companies are moving everywhere. Yeah. So when it comes to that, I wish I could tell you exactly what that was. I wish there was some sort of like survey we could do, but unfortunately there's not. So we have to look at the number of children per household is important, because that higher number of children per household, if they're at 70,000 and they have 5 kids in that house, they're broke, plain and simple. Yeah. Or if they're in the Bay Area and they're making $70K a year, that's borderline poverty. So we do take in markets, we do take in the number of children per household, we do take in cost of living, we do take in the different markets. If there's a community that has a 70,000 median household income, but in 4 miles every direction is 110, 190, that 70 is on the lower end. That's a little scary. Then I want to figure out what's going on. Why are all these other communities higher income and this one's lower? Is there a college in town? That throws off your numbers completely. So there's a lot of different pieces that we have to take into consideration. So it's not like just a flat number. We really want to work with the individual. So there's one individual who's opening up a location. The numbers weren't the strongest, but we approved it because he owns a building, and guess what? He's doing fantastic. Would I normally have approved that for somebody? No. Right? I wouldn't have done it. So it does come down to the franchisee at the same time. What's their knowledge on the community? What's happening? I mean, there's a lot of different factors. We're not in a situation where we're so desperate where we just want to sell a location to anybody. That's not what we do. We've never done that from day one. So we really want to make sure we understand what you're getting at with your market. We've had people approach us and say their market is different, their market is this. But if you're telling me your market is different and you have a 60,000 median household income, 10,000 kids, and you're going to pay $20,000 a month in rent, I can promise you I'm not going to approve it. I don't care how unique your market is. So there's all these different factors that that we want to work with you on to be sure that it's the right setup for Code Ninjas, and you, because you're investing in us, and this is trust and profitability is everything in franchising. And if I just sell franchises to sell them, you're not going to trust me, and you're not going to be profitable, and this is going to be ugly. This is a long-term partnership, so we really want to work on your area and your community and understand it and work on it together.
Let me ask a related question, I guess. I notice when I look around the country at where you've got centers open already, that most of them are not in cities, in city centers. Most of them are in the suburbs, which makes sense given where the kids are. But looking back at like what that guy was saying about Brooklyn or New York City or downtown San Francisco, it's odd to me that like you don't have anybody in a center in downtown San Francisco where there are still lots and lots of wealthy kids.
Right.
Is that being driven by the fact that rent and leases in downtown areas are so high, and so you can't? It really just messes up your numbers, or maybe you can just speak to me a little bit. Why do you think that the X are?
It's rent. I can tell you right now, it's rent.
Yeah,
it's 100% rent. I mean, this is not an exaggeration. I was working with a franchisee to go into a city, and our franchisees, the highest rent cost I think I've seen so far is $42 a square foot from one of our franchisees. I was working in a major city, high income, everything made sense. It was just dynamic. He found me a location, $167.50 a square foot. I'm like, I almost hung up the phone on him. There's no way I'm going to prove that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like we have to be really, really cautious on these areas that are big city. We want to be there, but unless a landlord is going to work with us and these rent costs become realistic, I mean, how can you be profitable in a place like that? We're not a nonprofit, for Pete's sake, and having high rent costs like that, I mean, that's crazy. So we look for we want to make sure that we're working with the franchisee, and believe it or not, we've had some franchisees find some pretty incredible opportunities where you originally thought it was going to be high, and it wasn't as high as they thought.
Yeah, because I just ballparking the pro formas up with the data that that you provided. That lease cost is a big fixed nut. So depending on your on your cost, it can really make or break you.
And some of those bigger cities, you're probably looking at a smaller square footage, getting a good rent, value. You could definitely make it work.
Right.
And that's why we also let our franchisees take the camp and workshop curriculum and go out into the school system. So if we do have to go to the smaller square foot space, they can be out in the community with those camps and workshops, which would typically clog your space, which is smaller. Now you can take that out and about, and that's a good little problem solver.
Right. So when you mentioned in some of the data that you've provided so far that's available online, you've got average, I think in the item 19, whatever data, average.
Don't say it. Don't say it. We got to talk about it we got to talk about that one-on-one.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say it. I won't say it. You can go download it online. But anyway, I won't say it, but it's available online. But anyway, if I take that number and I divide it by the average cost of what a kid is paying a year, I can come up with an average number of students, and it tells me that. And then if I look at the size that you're talking about, and knowing I've been to some of the centers, I know how many students they have. And I back into capacity numbers that seem quite low in terms of how those centers average centers are doing. And that just makes me think, is that low capacity being driven by the fact that you've got a lot of new centers and so they're not up to capacity yet? Or
there's no such thing as capacity, first of all. So you can't even use that as a measurable, because there's no such thing as capacity. When you look at a Code Ninjas with the drop-in program, there's and you look at that cost of business in there. You look at what our average center's cost of business is. You look at the average attrition, and you look at the average revenue. That's pretty dang good for numbers. There's no such thing as a capacity, as a measurable. Every seat in your center is worth about five kids, because we don't do classes, we don't do lectures, so there's that constant ebb and flow of traffic coming in and out. So when you look at an 1,800 square foot space, if you look at, well, let's say it's 1,600 square foot space, you can get close to 30 seats in 1,800 square feet. So you're looking at 5 per seat is where that would, if you want to say capacity, but you have a constant ebb and flow. So that would be, hitting capacity would be really difficult to do.
Well, what I meant by that is if you have those 30 seats and if you have a 5-to-1, then theoretically you shouldn't be selling more than 150 kids at once into the drop-in program.
Yeah, 150 kids at $225 a month. That's not a bad center, I would say. Yeah, but it's way higher than the growth revenue number that you're talking about in the item 19. It breaks up to instead of 150 kids, close to 100 kids. I think that's So I mean, we're talking about capacity versus averages, though, and you're also talking about not all those centers. A couple of those centers are 1,200 square feet, 1,300 square feet from the beginning. So you got to look at you're talking about average, the size we recommend, not the average size we have now. Okay. So when you talk about Code Ninjas now, you're talking 1,600 to 1,800, 1,900 square feet is where a lot of our franchisees land. Yeah. And when you look at capacity, I get what you're saying, I get what you're doing, but that's also averages in terms of cost. Yeah. I mean, some of our franchisees charge less and they have a higher number of students. Some of our franchisees charge $350 a month and they have a lower number of students. So you're going to get those numbers are going to get messed up a little bit. Yeah. Well, the thing I'm trying to figure out is, this is a high fixed cost business. I mean, your center director and your lease are probably your two biggest expenses. So being able to use all the space you have, or being able to maximize the number of students that you can have is within the limitations of the center is really important. And is there? Anyway, maybe it's a better question to ask one-on-one. I'm just trying to figure out. Well, no, yeah, and feel free because obviously we're adding more programs all the time. If you look at that item 19, obviously that's more information than a lot of our past franchisees have had, and they're obviously very excited about those numbers. So even our franchisees are. Because there's a max in there too, not just an average, and you see that max. But having a business that costs you about $11,500 a month to operate, I wouldn't call that a high cost in franchising. Well, I'm not saying it's a high cost. I'm just trying to figure out any high. Let's do that. No, we're running. Yeah, no, let's make sure we connect one-on-one. I'd love to dive into it more with you for sure. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. Hi, you have a question?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I have a question. Yes. So you said that the initial startup is between 110 to 150K, and it does include the franchise fee, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then on your website, it said the royalties are 6%, but I think you said 8%. Was it just misspoken or something? The website did not get updated or something?
No, well, we have 6% is the royalties for Code Ninjas, but then there's another 2% on there that's inside the FDD that explains it as well, which is for all the technology, the processing, the technology hub of your entire Code Ninjas. So I make it easy and just tell everybody 8%. So. Okay,
I see. And then the initial investment does include incorporation, all this business license, whatever is needed.
Yep.
Okay, and you will help out with that process as well, or?
Well, we give you guidance. We don't. Yeah, we point you in the right direction. Yes.
Okay, I see. I think I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Last question. You have a question? You waited the longest. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I have 3 questions actually. So I was looking at your locations in Canada, and I see only one in Toronto yet. How's this going in Canada?
We have 20. I think you should look at the website again. We have 20 sold locations in the GTA.
And they're all operating?
No. They're sold territories, in the GTA.
Okay.
We have about 20 sold locations in the GTA.
Okay, but none of them have started actually running.
They're signed leases and they're beginning to open. So we have I think we have a total of 10 signed leases, which means they're under construction. So
okay, right. So do you have a team that caters to just the Canadian cities or the things or processes that happen here in Canada, or do you oversee everything from the U.S.?
Well, we oversee everything from the U.S. because we have quite a few years of experience in Canada.
Okay. So my last question is, for someone who's working full-time, someone who's employed, what is the time commitment that would be required to set up and have the franchise running?
That's a pretty wide open question. Without knowing you, without knowing who is the source of that question, I think as we go through this process together and we're vetting everything out, you'll start to see what you need to do for hours wise. I don't know what your bandwidth is, but once you start to put everything together, you'll start to see what it requires of you.
Yes, I'm assuming a lot of people would be in my category where they would be working full-time and then they would want to start up something, but they cannot just switch
half of our franchisees work full-time and half of our franchisees work in the center. So it's half of our franchisees operate they're working out of the center and with their full-time jobs, and the other half work inside the center. It's about half and half.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining today's Code Ninjas conference call. If I did not get a chance to get to you, free to send me an email, marty@codeninjas.com. I'll do my very best to get back to you right away. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it, and I look forward to working with you more in the future.